My mom refused to pick up my sick son from school. You had kids, you deal with them, she said. He waited outside in the rain for hours. I didn't yell. I just did something quiet. 3 days later she was calling me non-stop, crying, panicking, begging me to undo what I'd done. My mom left my son outside in the rain while he was sick, and she didn't care. It was a Thursday. I remember because I had just stepped out of a panel discussion at a hotel in downtown Chicago. I was there for a 2-day conference that my company had been pushing me to attend for months. I'd arranged everything: rides, meals, emergency contacts. And most importantly, I had asked my mom if she could be the one to step in if anything went wrong while I was gone. She agreed, said she'd be around, said it was no problem. So when I saw the missed call from the school nurse just before noon, followed by 2 more from the front desk, I didn't panic, at least not right away. I figured it was something minor. A scraped knee, maybe a headache. But the voicemail made my stomach sink. Caleb had a fever. He had thrown up in class. He was pale, shivering, and asking for me. They needed someone to pick him up immediately. Called my mom. No answer. I texted her. Nothing. 10 minutes later I called again, and this time she picked up. I told her what happened, that Caleb needed to be picked up now. That I couldn't get there. That I trusted her. She said without hesitation, "I'm not going. You had kids, you deal with them." I asked her to repeat that, hoping I'd misheard. She just said she had things to do and hung up. I stood there in the hallway holding my phone, staring at the floor like something in me had cracked. It wasn't just the fact that she said no. It was how easy it was for her. Like my son wasn't her grandson. Like none of it mattered. I spent the next hour trying to find someone, anyone who could go. A neighbor. A coworker's sister. I even called the school again and begged them to release Caleb to someone not on the pickup list. They couldn't. Palsy. By the time I got on a flight and landed back home, it was already dark. I drove straight from the airport to the school, hoping someone had stayed with him. But no. Caleb was outside, sitting on the concrete near the gym exit. He was drenched. His backpack was soaked through. He looked exhausted, sick, and completely out of it. He had been waiting for me in the cold November rain for nearly 5 hours. I didn't say anything to my mom that night. I didn't even text her. I just got Caleb inside, changed his clothes, got his fever down, and stayed with him until he fell asleep. But something in me turned cold. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just cold. Because here's what most people don't know. My mom hasn't paid a bill in years. I bought her a house last summer. She begged me to help her get out of her rental. Said she was drowning in bills, couldn't take the stress anymore. So I took out the mortgage in my name. I paid every monthly bill. I paid her car insurance, her utilities, her groceries. All of it. And the one time I needed something real from her, not money, not anything hard, just to pick up her sick grandson, she chose not to. It wasn't that she couldn't. It was that she wouldn't. And that was the moment something in me broke. Not loud. Not messy. Just final. The next morning she texted me like nothing happened. Just a casual message asking if I could transfer a little extra for groceries because things were tight this week. I stared at that message for a full minute. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I knew exactly what I wasn't going to say anymore. I wasn't going to explain how my son waited 5 hours in the rain. I wasn't going to guilt her. I wasn't going to start a fight. I just didn't reply. And later that night, after Caleb had finally stopped coughing in his sleep, I opened my laptop and logged into the mortgage portal. The house was under my name. The automatic payment for her mortgage was set up through my account. I canceled it. I opened my bank app and canceled the grocery card reload. Then the auto pay for her cell phone bill. Then the utility money I'd been Venmoing her for over a year. It all took 10 minutes. She had no idea. 3 days passed. Silence. I didn't reach out. She didn't either. Then on Sunday morning I woke up to 5 missed calls. Then 8 more. A few texts. One said, "Call me now." Another was just all caps. "What did you do?" I didn't answer. By noon she was calling non-stop. Back to back to back. She left a voicemail crying, asking me to undo whatever I did. Said the mortgage company called and told her the payment was declined. That she was behind now. That she'd get fees. That her bank account was overdrawn. So I didn't answer. That afternoon she showed up at my door. Knocked like nothing had happened. When I opened it, she went straight into a long rant about how I was overreacting, how she was just busy that day and didn't think it was a big deal, and how I was ruining her life over one mistake. I let her finish. Then I told her the truth, that it wasn't just about that day. It was years of taking and acting like she was entitled to everything I gave her. Years of pretending like helping her was my job. I told her I didn't want to hear another excuse. And then I closed the door. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just made a choice. 3 days later, she sent me a photo of a foreclosure warning she got in the mail. She said she needed money right now, or she'd lose the house. I didn't answer that one either. A week after that, she stopped texting. And about a month later, a neighbor told me she'd packed up and moved out. Left the state. No forwarding address. No goodbye. Just gone. And you know what? It's been peaceful. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not paying for someone else's mess while they treat me like I owe them more. Caleb's better now. Still asks about her sometimes. I tell him the truth, not everything, just enough. That sometimes people who are supposed to protect you don't. And that's when you learn to protect yourself. After she left the state, the silence felt unfamiliar. Not quiet, not peaceful, not yet. Just empty. There'd been a constant background noise in my life for so long. Little things. Texts asking for money. Complaints about bills. Guilt trips about how she gave me life, and how I owe her everything. When that stopped, it was like walking into a room where the AC had been humming forever, and suddenly it shuts off and you hear your own breathing again. At first, I kept waiting for her to come back. Not physically, I expected more text. More attempts. Maybe some story about how she was sick or in danger or homeless. He always had a trick to reel me back in. But this time, nothing. That's when I realized she wasn't just leaving to cool off. She'd left because the money was gone. There was no fight worth fighting if there wasn't a payout. People like that don't love you, they manage you. And once they realize they can't manage you anymore, they just move on. I didn't tell anyone for a while. Not my friends. Not even Caleb's dad, who I'm not with anymore but still talk to. I wasn't ashamed. I just didn't feel like explaining. Because when people hear that you cut off your own mother, they always assume you're cold or hard or unforgiving. They don't know what it's like to be raised by someone who keeps a scorecard like a debt collector. My mom used to say things like, "Don't forget who gave you your first car," anytime she needed something. The car, by the way, was a 2002 Honda with no AC and a dented bumper that I paid to fix 3 times. But she still acted like she gifted me a Lexus. That was our whole relationship. One big, exhausting trade-off. So when I finally told a friend, just one, she looked at me like I'd said I kicked my mother out into the street. But I hadn't. I just stopped being her A-team. He chose to walk away. I found out where she went a few weeks later. Through a cousin. She moved in with some man she used to date when I was a kid. A guy who once sold stolen car parts out of his garage. My cousin said she's already telling people that I abandoned her, that I'm selfish and ungrateful. She left that part out about the sick kid standing in the rain, I guess. I didn't defend myself. I just listened. Because I didn't need to explain anymore. I had done enough of that in my life. I wasn't going to keep justifying why I finally said no. She made her choices. And for the first time, so did I. About 2 months after she left, something weird started happening. I'd be doing completely normal things. Making breakfast, folding laundry, driving Caleb to soccer practice. And this strange wave of guilt would just hit me out of nowhere. Not about the decision itself. I didn't regret cutting her off. But I kept thinking, what if I went too far? What if she's struggling more than I think? What if I turned into the villain in someone else's story? And that thought would fester. I'd picture her sitting in some rundown apartment in another state, surrounded by boxes, telling her new boyfriend how her daughter turned her back and left her with nothing. I'd imagine her crying, saying she gave everything to raise me and got abandoned in return. There were moments when I almost picked up the phone. I'd scroll to her name in my contacts and just stare at it. I never deleted it. I'd sit there thinking, would it really be that hard to just send her $100? Just for food, just this once? But then I'd remember. I'd remember Caleb sitting outside that school in the rain. I'd remember that voicemail from the nurse and the cold, casual way my mom said she had plans when her own grandson needed help. And I'd remember something even worse, that deep down I wasn't surprised. Because it wasn't the first time she let me down. It was just the worst. She didn't show up when I gave birth to Caleb either. Said hospitals made her uncomfortable. She never babysat unless I paid her. When I got laid off 2 years ago and couldn't cover rent for a month, she didn't offer help. Just told me I should have saved better. But if she had a phone bill due or her internet got cut off or she saw a sale at some furniture store, suddenly I was her lifeline. The guilt didn't come from the truth. It came from all the years I was trained to feel bad for not doing more. I grew up thinking love looked like sacrifice, like putting out fires someone else kept starting. And now that the fires were out and the phone wasn't ringing, I didn't know what to do with the quiet. I talked to a therapist. First time in my life. She asked me one question that shut everything down. If someone else treated your son the way she treated you, would you let them stay in his life? I said no, without hesitation. So why was I still debating whether I owed her a second chance? That question stuck with me. Because the truth is, when you're raised by someone who only sees your worth in what you can give them, you start to believe that love has to be earned. That you're only valuable when you're useful. But I was done being useful to someone who saw me as a bank, not a daughter. I was starting to understand that walking away wasn't cruelty. It was self-preservation. And I wasn't just doing it for me anymore. I was doing it for Caleb too. It was early spring when she reached out again. Caleb had just gotten over a stomach bug and I was running late for everything that week. Late to pick him up, late on a work deadline, late getting dinner on the table. My phone buzzed while I was in line at the pharmacy, and I glanced at it thinking it was one of the usual school reminders or calendar alerts. But it was her. A long message. Way longer than she usually sent. It started with, "Hey sweetheart," which was already weird because she hadn't called me that since I was a teenager. She said she missed us. Said she didn't want things to be like this. Said she'd been going through a lot and had made mistakes, but that family is family, and she wanted to fix things. No apology. No acknowledgement of what she did. Just vague, soft language. Like we drifted apart naturally, like this was a misunderstanding we could smooth over with a phone call. She ended it with, "Maybe we can have lunch? Just talk. I miss Caleb." And that's when I realized the message wasn't about me. It never was. She wanted back in. Not because she missed me, but because she missed what came with me. The comfort, the money, the stability. And maybe even more than that, she missed access. Because when she said she missed Caleb, I knew exactly what she meant. She meant she missed being able to post photos on Facebook that made her look like a doting grandma. She missed pretending to be part of a close-knit family. She missed the version of herself she could play when she had me to fund the role. I didn't respond to the message. I didn't block her either. I just let it sit. 2 days later, another one came. This one a little colder. She said she was disappointed in how I was treating her and that, no matter what happened, she was still my mother. Still no apology. Still no mention of what she did. Still pretending like I was being emotional or irrational for drawing a boundary. I showed the messages to a friend, someone who had also cut off a toxic parent, and they said something that stuck with me. They don't want reconciliation. They want reinstatement. It was exactly that. She didn't want to rebuild anything. She wanted the benefits back. The money, the stability, the fallback plan. And if I reopened that door even a little, she'd walk right through it with all her chaos in tow. So I left it closed. I thought about blocking her then. Really considered it. But a part of me wanted to leave the line open just to see how far she'd go. And sure enough, a week later came the twist. She messaged again, this time not asking, not apologizing. She threatened me. Not directly. She said, "I might have to go to court and figure out what rights I have to see my grandson if you keep doing this." It was laughable, honestly. A woman who abandoned a sick child in the rain trying to talk about rights. But that was the moment everything solidified in my mind. She wasn't ever coming back as a better version of herself. She wasn't going to reflect or change or understand. She was going to manipulate and pressure and threaten until I broke. But I wasn't breaking. Not anymore. I didn't answer her message about court. There was nothing to say. I knew she wasn't serious. She didn't want custody or visitation or any legal battle. She didn't even want to see Caleb, not really. He just wanted to scare me. Push a button and get the reaction she always got when I was younger. Panic, guilt, submission. But I didn't panic this time. I didn't feel scared. I felt tired. Tired of carrying her weight. I screenshotted everything. Every message, every lie, every veiled threat, and sent it to my lawyer just to be safe. He read through the texts, called me the next day and said, "She doesn't have a leg to stand on. She's bluffing." I knew that already, but hearing it out loud made it easier. After that, I blocked her number. Not out of anger. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Done explaining, done waiting for change, done letting her show up in my life only to take and tear things apart. It was like shutting off a switch that had been flickering for years. I blocked her on everything. Phone, email, Facebook, Instagram, even that ancient Gmail address she used to use when she couldn't remember her main password. And then I waited. For a few days, nothing. Then about a week later, a letter showed up in my mailbox. No return address, but I recognized her handwriting the second I saw it. I stood on the porch holding the envelope like it was something radioactive. I thought about throwing it away without opening it, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a single sheet of paper. She said she lost the house. That she was staying with someone out of state. She didn't say who, but I could guess. Probably that guy she used to date, the one with a sketchy garage and no steady job. She wrote that she never thought things would turn out this way. That she did her best as a mother. That she was sorry it came to this. But not sorry for what she did. Not sorry for leaving Caleb in the rain. Not sorry for the years of manipulation, guilt-tripping, and financial leeching. Just sorry that I stopped playing along. That was the real grief for her. Losing the control, not the connection. I folded the letter back up, walked into the kitchen and dropped it straight into the trash. I didn't tell anyone it came. I didn't answer. I didn't save it. That was the final thread. And once it snapped, something in me unlocked. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It wasn't cold. It was clean. I looked at Caleb that night while he was sleeping and thought, this is the cycle breaking. Right here. He'll grow up never having to wonder why his family hurt him, then expected him to smile through it. He'll never sit outside a school soaking wet, wondering if the people who say they love him actually mean it. I made sure of that. And as for her, wherever she is, whatever story she's telling now, I don't care anymore. She made her choices. And finally I made mine. It's been 2 weeks since that last letter. She didn't send another one. She didn't try a new number. She didn't show up, didn't have anyone reach out on her behalf, and didn't make a scene like I thought she might. It was just silence. And I kept waiting for someone in the family to bring her up. To ask what happened, to tell me I needed to call her, or guilt me into some half-hearted reunion. But no one did. No one asked where she went. Not even my aunt, who usually calls me whenever someone in the family sneezes wrong. Not my cousins who used to borrow her car or crash at her place when they were broke. Not even my sister, who I'm only halfway in contact with and who always had a soft spot for her. I think they knew. Maybe not the details, but enough. Because this wasn't new. She'd burned her bridges with them too in quieter ways. Borrowed money she never paid back. Stirred up fights over nothing. Lied. Manipulated. She was exhausting in every direction. The difference was I was the only one still holding the rope. Until I let go. Caleb's been doing better. His cough's gone, he's back in school, and he hasn't mentioned her once. I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse. He used to draw her in his little crayon family pictures. Lately he just draws me and him. And sometimes a dog. We don't have one, but he's been campaigning hard. The mornings are lighter now. I don't wake up wondering what new crisis is coming. No unexpected bills. No vague texts asking for a small favor. No guilt-trip voicemails starting with, I guess I'm just a terrible mother, huh? I didn't realize how much of my mental space she took up until she wasn't in it anymore. And I've started doing things I forgot I liked. I've been reading again. Not parenting books or work reports. Actual fiction. I bought a plant. I signed up for a yoga class I used to tell myself I didn't have time for. I even started a small savings account. For me. Not for someone else's bills. Not for emergencies I didn't cause. Just something with my name on it that no one else can touch. It's strange how quickly life settles once you stop dragging someone else's chaos behind you. There's still a part of me that wonders if this is really over. If she's going to pop back up months from now with a different number, a new excuse, a sad story she hopes I'm soft enough to believe. But if she does, she'll find someone different. Not cruel. Not bitter. Just done.